Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to yet another episode of people on the internet talking about topics they have no expertise in, but keep on talking in the hopes of helping anyone by doing so. Once again, a huge thank you and shout out to all of the presented artists in this video, link in the description below. So let's start off with a digital illustration featuring an original character by DefalHady. The drawing is titled Emo Disco Lights and probably connected to his previous piece, Alaya Disco Lights. Both illustrations are probably supposed to create some sort of introduction to these characters, therefore creating a lot of space for possible visual communication. One thing which struck me immediately was the high level of competence when it comes to lighting. The light sources were placed correctly, which creates a believable amount of depth. Due to their difference in color, a nice contrast to the predominantly dark color palette is being created. As we can see, there's also been stylization going on here, still leaning towards the realistic side, which adds to the somewhat serious tone. The pointy line art is an easy to recognize element of this particular style, but it also creates a tension in this area. From afar there seems to be a curvature, in a place where a triangular shape could have worked more favorably. Regarding the coloring of the line art, it should have either been completely black for the sake of consistency, or completely colored according to the bordered block of color, because this shift over here creates an unfavorable connection between the foreground and the background, in my opinion. Alternatively, these two lights may have been better placed behind the character. Both proportions and pose seem fine. When it comes to the overall composition, the raw source can be successfully applied. Regarding eye movement, there's not much going on here, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because a more dynamic pose would probably seem out of character in this piece. However, altogether it's definitely competently done, so keep up the good work. Let's continue with a digital scenery painting by BarleysVisuals. As a little disclaimer beforehand, we are currently analyzing a first attempt of someone using Photoshop, which makes this a rather special occasion. Alright, the first aspect which struck me was the experimental usage of brushes. If the artist was going for realism, some of them contribute more to this style than others. For instance, these clouds strongly resemble their real-life counterparts, whereas the grass seems little too soft in my opinion. However, if the actual aim happened to be impressionism, all of them work out quite favorably in communicating a comfortable ambient in this piece. Personally, I think one of the strongest elements in the drawing is its color palette. It's highly saturated with some attention to detail, like the color gradient of the sky. The highlighted shadows work exceptionally well because they themselves share the same level of vivacity as the rest. On this note, I would also like to point out that some of the shadows do not quite work out. Another aspect worth mentioning is the overall design of the tree as the main content of the illustration itself. As we can see, it is leaning further towards the ideal tree on the spectrum, which communicates some sort of human intervention. You would most likely find this kind of tree in a city next to a government building, while this one would be expected to grow on an open field. So there's symbolic conflict going on here. Regarding the overall composition, there's not much going on in the foreground, however, due to the intense shading and the ominous clouds in the background, it does not feel empty or unfinished. On a personal note, I would have preferred it following the rule of thirds, but the mere circumstance of the eye catcher being off center already does a good job of adding some uniqueness to the overall composition. Regarding diagonals, it's very stable and solid because of the high amount of parallels. But this calmness and simplicity comes at the price of low visual input, which would encourage eye movement otherwise. It's overall pleasant to look at, but the treetop could have used some clearer shading. Nonetheless, well done. At last but not least, we shall take a look at some traditional fan art by SolwayHeretic featuring Derek Frost Westbrook from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. In this particular case, we will ignore composition, viewer engagement, and overall impact while instead focusing on mere technique itself, pointing out what seems accurate and what could be improved. Firstly, it's important to point out that the character is definitely recognizable, and there's been a lot of attention to detail when it comes to his uniform, further contributing to the recognizability. Especially in regards to shading, there's no noticeable error and the depth is feelable. However, it is not quite clear where the light source comes from, or to be more precise, why this highlight over here is on this side of the goggles instead of the other one, just like the other highlights would suggest. But this is really just a minor nitpick and nothing that distracting. The only thing worth critiquing in this piece is the sensation that something feels off. I'm not completely certain whether or not I figured out why, so please take the following statements with a grain of salt. According to my theory, the sensation stems from the placing of the mask in correlation to the facial structure. Regardless of it being completely covered, there are still hints presented throughout the drawing, which suggest the hidden proportions, like this. And if we shorten the face altogether, or stretch the mask a little further up, it feels a little more natural in my opinion. Nonetheless, it's a nice, lazy drawing with a noticeable level of quality. Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you feel the need to criticize the critic, feel free to do so in the comments below. Anyways, stay healthy, seize the day, and goodbye.